Hello, everyone. It is breaking news time here on Redmen TV, or certainly it was during the Liverpool 4-2 victory over Karlsruhe, with the news that the Reds have agreed a deal with Al-Ettifaq, Steven Gerrard's Al-Ettifaqi, to sell Jordan Henderson, the Liverpool skipper, to them. We're going to go through all the details of this. I want to know your reactions to it as well. Big news, obviously for a 32-year-old footballer, but Liverpool to be selling their current club captain almost out of the blue. I know it's been rumbling on for the best part of a week this now, but in reality, it certainly wasn't part of Liverpool's plans. But it's going to have to be now because, yes, despite the fact that the news came out Wednesday, Thursday last week, that Henderson had agreed behind sort of closed doors, had shaken hands, as it were, on a reported £700,000 a week deal with Al-Ettifaq. It didn't look like it was necessarily still going to go ahead, but then, of course, the articles started to drip feed out. There was some from Ornstein of The Athletic, David Ornstein, writing that Henderson was leaning towards the move. Now, we also saw a simultaneous bid from Al-Ettifaq for Fabinho, a deal which is yet to be completed, that saw Fabinho not taken on the pre-season training camp. Henderson went, so he's been in training with Liverpool over the weekend, leading up to today's game. However, the news broke just in the time leading up to kickoff, and I've got Paul Joyce, of course, tweeted at the time, just to give you a bit of a timeline on this. Jordan Henderson was said to miss Liverpool's friendly with Karlsruhe, given ongoing interest from Al-Ettifaq. Now, what we do know is, yes, the training camp was said to be some 2.5 hours away from the game, so Liverpool had to take the squad, as it were, over to the match, leaving Jordan Henderson behind, which was obviously going to provoke talk and provoke rumours. What we then saw as the game kicked off in the early stages of the match, Fabrizio Romano tweeted, exclusive: Liverpool and Al-Ettifaq just reached an agreement in principle on fee for Jordan Henderson. Here we go. Henderson already agreed 3-year deal last week, documents to be checked, then time to sign and move to Saudi. Steven Gerrard waiting for JH, and a sensational piece of Photoshop work there. How is it Gerrard's tie is the worst part of that Photoshop? I've got no idea, but there it is. So that was then. That was what was going on during the match. As we got to half time, the news took another sort of twist with the fee becoming known. So our very own Neil Jones from Journo Insight with Neil Jones twice a week on redmenplus.com, at Neil Jones Gold, tweeted, Al-Ettifaq have agreed in principle a fee worth an initial £12 million with Liverpool to sign Jordan Henderson. I've read that wrong twice when I've read that on different shows. The intonation implies that he's signing for Liverpool. Al-Ettifaq have agreed in principle a fee worth an initial £12 million with Liverpool to sign Jordan Henderson. Deal now in the final stages. And then Paul Joyce, bless me, good Lord, I was holding that in. Followed up his initial tweet by saying, a 12 million deal rising, agreed in principle between the clubs. Do keep your thoughts coming in the live show chat. The Athletic have posted this article since. Jordan Henderson to leave Liverpool camp after clubs agreed deal for him to join Al-Ettifaq. This was 2 hours ago. Liverpool captain will leave their training camp in Germany after the Merseyside club, and Al-Ettifaq agreed a deal in principle that will see the midfielder move to the Saudi Arabian side. A fee of 12 million plus add-ons has been agreed between the two sides. Henderson has already agreed a 3-year contract worth close to £700,000 a week. 700,000. That is, because it's the Athletic, $917,000 a week. That's nearly $1 million a week. For those of you who can't do this rounding, it's closer to 900,000, but it's also, it's not far off $1 million. They were managed by the 33-year-old former Liverpool teammate Steven Gerrard, but a deal still needed to be agreed between the clubs, with club captain Henderson still having 2 years left on the 4-year contract he signed in summer 2021. Henderson travelled with his teammates to Germany on Saturday. He was not included in the squad for their game against Karlsruhe on Wednesday afternoon. Gerrard was appointed earlier this month as the new manager and has played a key role in driving the pursuit of Henderson. The England international has been a leader off the pitch for Liverpool and England too, being one of the most vocal players in support of the LGBTQI plus community and fans. This is David Ornstein writing this, by the way, because I know people seem to get wound up when you talk about these things, but this is the reality of what it is. Homosexuality is illegal in Saudi Arabia, and Liverpool's cop-out supporters group said it would be appalled if a proposed transfer materialised. If you want to listen to Paul Aman, who is the head of cop-out, give his thoughts on the potential move, we spoke to him. It's on Redmen Plus right now if you want to go and get some insight into that and what it means to someone from the LGBT Q plus community. Henderson joined Liverpool from Sunderland in 2011, was appointed club captain after Gerrard's departure in 2015, been a constant in the Liverpool side since his arrival, making 492 appearances in all competitions. Henderson played 43 times for Liverpool last season, making 23 starts in the Premier League as Jurgen Klopp's side finished 5th. Wow, there we go. I mean, look, I guess we all knew this was likely to happen. I'll be honest with you, a week ago when this was first getting mooted, and it had been rumoured probably a week or two before that, it seemed nonsense. And even when it was starting to be reported by reasonable journalists, I couldn't help but feel there'd be some sort of 11th hour turn on this. Like, thanks for the interest, isn't that nice? Maybe it uses Henderson. Maybe Henderson can use it to negotiate a better position in the squad or whatever. I don't know. But I honestly thought, and I've said this publicly, as mentioned there, I think, if you take a strong moral stance on things, sometimes it does mean that you don't get to take every opportunity that's put in front of you. That's the reality of morals. But I mean, I don't like character assassinating people. I don't like to slaughter people. I don't know the full ins and outs of things. I've just done a podcast it's just got out with Baz Cass from Toffee TV called Inside the Game, and talking about this. I think it's easier to praise without knowing all the knowledge. I feel more uncomfortable criticising without knowing it all. But yeah, I mean, as we can always point out, what we end up with is this moral whataboutery. So you're not allowed to talk about the morals of one issue because there's lots of other things. There are other moral issues that could be discussed in the world. All I'm doing is reporting the things that are said there. There are people who are understandably disappointed. I think that's fair to say. I don't think I think angry is probably maybe taking it a stretch too far, but I think it's one of those things. If you've got someone who's held up, I don't know. It's hard to give you an analogy without making light of the situation, but I can understand the feeling of disappointment if you feel like someone's really standing up and backing your corner, backing your case, and then to find out they're not. Yeah, I can understand how that sits uncomfortably with some people, to be perfectly honest. But Michael, who's been a member as a first teamer here on YouTube for 19 months, says LFC must have another player already in place? ? Maybe. Liverpool of the last 5 years, I'd have said yes. Liverpool in my time supporting the football club, I would say less likely. I would say Liverpool have been forced into this situation and they're going to trust themselves to roll with the punches and work it out. For every time that we've had brilliant signings lined up, like the McAllister deal being boxed early doors, you've got Fabinho being boxed almost like hours after getting off the plane from Kiev. These are Liverpool working smartly, working quickly, being the bosses, being in charge of certain transfer situations. But I've also seen us sell Luis Suarez, try to get Alexis Sanchez and miss out, and then end up with the Sophie's choice of Samuel Eto'o or Mario Balotelli as your striking option, both of whom were utter shite. So, yeah. Big fella here with the super chat says, total hypocrisy, Paul. I mean, from me, look, I think from the Henderson perspective, I get it. I know it's tough. And again, that's what it comes down to, people's general feelings of being let down by Henderson. It's a bit like, I'll give you an example of it. And it's not quite as bad as this, but, if someone was a strong, Hillsborough Justice campaigner and then wrote for the Sun, I think you would feel that would be well. I think it actually probably be worse in some instances, but it'd be more hurtful. But I give you an example of Keir Starmer is a good example of the Labour leader. Liverpool is a very left-leaning city. It is a Labour-led city. It's a Labour council, and that runs the city, and always has been, and pretty much is likely always to be. When the Labour leader writes an article for The Sun, all of the people in the city of Liverpool who vote Labour felt massively let down by him. They'll probably still vote Labour because ultimately it's just the guy who's the figurehead, but there's a general feeling of let down. And look, again, I'm not saying these are direct comparisons because it's impossible for me to lay down a direct comparison to it, but I'll give you an example of when you feel like someone's leading the fight for your cause, someone's on your side, you feel like you get someone, and then for these kind of things that happen again. All I'm expressing is that I understand that the upset that this will cause for some people. And I do, yeah, and I do share it a little bit, to be honest. It's Crossbow says, would love for us to get Kimmich in to replace Fab. I've seen this. Let me know, by the way, who you think, because obviously now Fabinho's not done, but it looks like it's about to be. That one seemed further along than Henderson. So if Henderson's 12 million plus add-ons, Fabinho's 40, you're looking at 52 million extra quid in the coffers. If Liverpool are talking about 40 million, wanting to pay about 40 million for Lavia, there's still talk that there was they're after a centre half as well. We don't know what's in the coffers, is kind of what I'm leaning towards here. So what would you be doing next? Because I think this is a sliding doors moment for what comes next for Liverpool Football Club and what the challenges that the manager and the team are going to have to face. He's being interviewed by LFC TV at the moment, actually, and I can't actually hear what he's saying because I'm talking to you guys, but he's being interviewed by LFC TV. It'd be interesting to know whether he's actually asking the questions. He's quite animated, so maybe he is. I'll check that back in a minute. If someone sees that and could put me some quotes in, that'd be great. But yeah, Liverpool's business so far has been very good. They've improved the side with what they've done. Szoboszlai's an improvement on what we had. McAllister's an improvement on what we had. Getting rid of lads who are injury prone on free transfers, fine. Disappointing not to sell them, but they're gone. You've got them off the wages, and then you've got spaces in your squad to put in lads who are robust and available and talented and fresh blood. Boss. Fabinho's a first choice team player, and Jordan Henderson was probably the 12th man in waiting this season. It's a serious weakening of Liverpool's squad to let those two go on top of what we've let go already. Whatever Oxlade-Chamberlain, whatever Keita. And I thought the decision to not keep Milner for another year when he was already a bit part player and he was just a useful asset was a bit daft. But it's a bit negligent to lose Milner and Henderson in one window for me. Of course, we didn't know, and this is the problem. This was clearly not part of Liverpool's plans. So how they roll with this, how they deal with this, and what they choose to do next is going to be very, very, very important. It was already a pivotal summer, and what we do next could be the difference between Liverpool as a team that's fighting for fourth and a team that is comfortably fourth and is fighting for more. That's how important it is what Liverpool do next for me, because we saw it tonight. No Fabinho, no Henderson, Thiago and Bajcetic still injured. Trent's playing the six, fine. But you're then playing 19-year-old Conor Bradley, who's just played in League One, as in Trent's inverted right-back role. If that's going to be a thing, then we need to get better to play in that position. Bradley can be in the mix. I think I was very impressed by what I saw from Conor Bradley today in a friendly game against a Bundesliga 2 side in the first friendly game of pre-season. But that would be an oversight, I think, unless he's all of a sudden ready to be an absolute worldie. And these are things we can't know as fans looking in. So these things can happen. It exists in potential that Conor Bradley and Bobby Clark could just do what Bajcetic have done, and because we're all looking at Bajcetic now going nailed on first team football, good enough for the first 11. Those two lads could follow that same path, and it's less of an issue. But for my own comfort, and it's Liverpool don't do things for my comfort as much as people might think it's the other way around. I'd like to see us go and buy, spend with intent. Now, maybe we had a limited budget, and it was going to mean that we had to leave ourselves a little short in an area or two. Maybe we weren't going to get the centre half, but we were going to box the midfield. Now I think if you can't get someone at least as good as Fabinho, at least as good, you might have to spend more to secure the other areas of the team. So I think you might have got away with not fixing the defence if you've rebooted the midfield perfectly. If you've got all your top targets from midfield and you've got that nice rounded balance, so you've got Fabinho, Henderson, Thiago, you've got Bajcetic, you've got Lavia in, you've got Szoboszlai, you've got McAllister, Elliott, Jones. That for me would have been an absolute perfect midfield to give us everything we needed. Legs, freshness, robustness, creativity, the lot. And maybe that could have covered up the slight creaking of the players that we've got in the defensive positions. But maybe that's what we have to do now. Maybe they have to say, you have to go to the owners and say, again, I'm not overly keen on this idea of owners pumping money in beyond what the club makes, because that's like giving you a crutch. That's like loaning a crutch. Now, loaning crutches is fine when you've got a broken foot. Loan the crutch until your foot heals, right? Yeah. When your foot's healed, give the crutch back to the hospital. But it's like loaning a crutch to someone who's only got one leg. They're going to need that forever. You know what I mean? And if you're going, well, you've only got that for 3 weeks. At the end of the 3 weeks, we take the crutch back. Well, what are you going to do? I've only got one leg, and that's where I am concerned about owner funding in the long term. It's why our clubs like Barcelona and all kinds of big clubs have ended up in dire football straight. And I don't want that to happen to our football club. But if the circumstances demand it, and this feels like it, big crossroads situation for Liverpool. I hope Jurgen Klopp is backed the way that he needs to be backed. I genuinely do. Right, Zupa Rookie just sent us in a super chat. Out of the goodness of your heart, I can only presume, with for £1. Thank you so much, my friend. John Page says, Lavia money plus 52 million equals who? That is the big question. Big question. So I did a video on my channel, Mates TV, that went out yesterday. When I looked at the 4 names that had already been linked, I got this wrong on the watch along before. Gravenberch, Calvin Phillips, Sofian Amrabat, and Romeo Lavia. None of whom I think are as good as Fabinho. I then looked at Florentino Luis and Edson Alvarez, who look the business, but are not playing at a high enough quality level of football to be gauged against what we should be gauged against. Rodri, for me, is the benchmark. That's how good your number 6 needs to be. Or Fabinho a year ago or 2 years ago. And everyone else at the moment falls beneath those standards. So the question is, who are you getting? And I'm seeing names like Kimmich, and I'm seeing names like Palhinha. They're both too old for me. Kimmich, at least you're getting a world of experience, and he can do a number of roles. That might be the answer. But does he want to come and be a bit part of the Europa League side? That's, some big moves. Big moves needed from Liverpool now. Right, Michael Ramsey with the super chat here says, Lavia and Kone centre-back in January. Why wait? The Costa stuff was interesting, wasn't it? That we used him. And this, again, I think a lot of this is just due to the fact that the two of our defensive midfield options have not gone to this training camp. And Curtis Jones, of course, has only just joined up, I think, or due to join up, having played in the under-21s. So I don't know whether Tsimikas playing as that inverted fullback is something we'll do, just to mix things up. So could you play Costas and Trent in a double pivot, potentially? And so Trent isn't playing inverted, he's just playing the DM, and Costas is playing inverted, rather than him playing, because Robertson played as the left of the back 3 centre-half. Tsimikas, who's technically our understudy left-back, didn't do that. He played as an inverted fullback, the way that Trent does it when he plays on the other side. So just talking points more than anything else there. I don't know the Kones of the level, and is he another bit of a gamble? Do you take a gamble on 2 young lads and hope that one of them comes good? There's a bit of that. That's a possibility, maybe. Jazz McDonald says Douglas Luiz is fitting. No links to him, though. Actually, you know what? I have actually seen a couple of mentions of him. We've definitely been linked with him in the past, and that's what we're doing at the moment. People are running through the greatest hits of footballers that Liverpool have been linked with. I'm just going to quickly get Douglas Luiz. up. Is that even him? Does he? Am I looking at the right Douglas Luiz before I go any further on this? Bear with me. Sorry, Club Aston Villa. Yes, I don't know enough about this lad, by the way. Just in terms of his scouting report, so I got these scouting reports up from FBref for a bunch of the players that we've been linked with, and in terms of his passing. His passing's rubbish. His pass attempt and pass completion, progressive passes aren't great. His progressive carries are okay. He's very middle of the road in all of that stuff. Your six needs to be pretty metronomic. They need to be having pass completion. They need to be in the 90+ percentile of all peers in that position. I think to be up there. And his tackles are okay. His interceptions are okay. He's fine. He would be. I think he would be all right. Maybe at best, to be perfectly honest on that one. Right, okay. Let's see what else we got here. Jake Colleran, but he is at least versed in the league, and he's a little bit older, a little bit more settled. So yeah, the integration process probably wouldn't take as long. Jake Colleran says Fabinho and Hendo leaving this way just feels empty. As poor as he was last year, Fab had a big part to play, in my opinion, especially with Mac and Sobbo. Yeah, I agree with that, and I think the plan was to ease him out, was to get an understudy for him and see if they could do that understudy, could learn on the job, and in 6 months' time, maybe we evolve past Fabinho. But the problem is that we tried to buy Fabinho's replacement last summer in Tchouaméni. It didn't come in. Then Fabinho got run into the ground by us because we didn't have enough proper cover for him. He got bombed out. People slagging his opinions, that was just me. Yeah, slagging his performances. And all kinds, and just generally, falling out with him because he was fucking rubbish last year, or right until the end. Why would he want to stick around when he knows he's surplus to requirements? He's just been given a brilliant offer that might never come. I get it, So I don't. That's why I don't kind of feel as bad about the Fabinho stuff. I think it's a smart time to move him on. I just don't think. When transfers exist in isolation, I think the Henderson transfer and the Fabinho transfer are fine. But for me, not when you've lost Milner as well, and not when you don't. Thiago's not even training properly at the moment, and he missed preseason last year. I was in in Bangkok last year, and Jota and Thiago were just basically stood on the touchline doing really, really basic stuff. And they both had stinking seasons for injuries, because that's what happens if you don't get a good pre-season. It impacts what you're able to do for the season that follows. So I'm concerned about leaving him, as much as he's probably the best player of the three, when Thiago's your experienced guy and he's the only one left. And he's only been at the club a few years, and he's not won everything with Liverpool. And he's got a year left on his contract. What's his motivation going to be like? That's a little concern. So I agree. I understand all of it. I can empathise with any of the decisions made. More Fabinho than Henderson, who I just need 2 more years at Liverpool. Need the captain. Bow out gracefully. I can't believe, having watched Gerrard decide to do the same. Gerrard ran his contract down because he couldn't imagine a world where he was sat on the bench. The captain of the football club, the legend of the football club, sat on the bench being a wane in power, and instead went and had a shit time in MLS instead, and lost out on an opportunity maybe to even, play under Jurgen Klopp ultimately. Yeah, I agree. It does feel a bit when you're giving Naby Keita a send off, but you don't get to give Jordan Henderson and Fabinho one. But then that's transfers, in it. Football's a cutthroat business. Maybe we need to be a bit more cutthroat. Thank you, Harry Thompson, for the super chat. Lovely. Thank you, Joshua Guy Wilkinson as well. Big John says, can't help but get frustrated listening to this. This is what we were shouting about last year. This was clear as day going to happen. What was Henderson and Fabinho having their heads turned by money from Saudi? Is that what we were talking about? Or what we were talking about was we needed to refresh the midfield. I just think there's a world where my issue with it is that I thought Liverpool had the plan, and I was quite enjoying the plan so far. The plan's been thrown on its head, and we'll never get to see what the real plan was. Now, the thing I mentioned this on a show the other day, in 17-18, Liverpool's plan was quite clearly to play Adam Lallana and Philippe Coutinho, I think, in advanced states. Very Man City-like. Henderson, I think, was going to be the 6. with Lallana and Coutinho was playing as these like 8-10s, giving us loads of attack and flair. And then Lallana got injured before the season started, and Coutinho got his head turned by Barcelona, and we had to then change the plan. And ultimately, we signed Virgil, and that changes everything that we do. But we'll never get to know what the unfettered plan of Liverpool was now. It'll be what it'll be. It might work out for the best, and ultimately it's done. They all look done now. They've made the decision. People who are in positions of power get to make decisions. That's why they get paid the money. That's their job, to make the decisions. Like, it's like anything. I could stand up here right now and drop me kecks and bare me arse on the street. Nobody wants to see that, right? It's not going to be good for my career. It's not going to be good for the channel. But ultimately, it's my channel, and if I want to do that, then that's what I've chosen to do. And maybe I've considered the ramifications of it. Maybe it's launching my career in a direction that I've always wanted it to go. From the outside, it'll look like a mad decision, but we can't know right now. In years to come, when I'm a famous arse model pulling in 10 figures a week, then that decision was justified. But right now, it would look and ultimately feel like a fucking stupid decision. There you go. I told you I'd get a stupid lowbrow analogy in there. Robert Ferenc says, once I get his comments up on screen, I would take experience over another young lad at the moment, or I would take experience over another young lad ass to mouth. Yeah. I get you, mate. I think there's a world where I don't think anyone's ever just bought an experienced lad that had been fine. I mean, actually, you know what? Chelsea have made a history of buying lads who were just fine and then having pretty good seasons, and then the next season making that their priority, getting someone amazing for it, and then being laughing. So maybe there is a world where you go and get a João Palhinha, or you go and get, Amrabat, and they just do a job for you for the season. And then they're integrated and they can be fine squad players the season after, but you go and get your worldie when that player becomes available. And we all know the transfer market's fluid. Players come out of nowhere and go from being, you've never heard of them till they're absolute superstars. That's a possibility. Now, here's the big question from Joshua, and I've got the answer. Jay Spearing is still on the books, isn't he? He is. Has anyone considered that Jay Spearing might be the answer at Liverpool's DM position? I really like Jay. I don't even like to play in those games because it's disrespectful. He's played more times for Liverpool than a lot of players that people go on about all the time, by the way. I think he's got something like 80 appearances for Liverpool. I think he played more than Jari Litmanen. Yeah, we'll see that. Prepare yourself, Josh. You've got it in there. You've got it in early, but everyone prepare yourself for that joke because you're going to see that a lot in the next couple of days, I think, unless we sign someone big soon. Next one from John Page. As Chelsea have money links with Saudi, are they buying our players to make one less threat as Diaz is linked to Saudi too? I think those links are a little overstated. I'm not saying they don't exist. They do. There was a really good... The Athletic did a really good podcast on this. I forget the name of the journalist. I'm sure it'll come back to me, and also, who cares? Matt Slater, I think it was. It's really good. I'd recommend listening to it. He's done a big deep dive and done the journalistic analysis on that. Sorry, they just showed Gerrard's goal against Marseille. That little curler from the corner of the box on LFC TV. I need to turn that off. It's distracting. I don't think there's any great conspiracy on it. I just think the Saudi Public Investment Fund are looking to bring players in, top quality players in, and what they've done is they've gone and got the aging lads, and they've had a really good rate of success. I mean, for God's sake, they've just bought Liverpool's captain. Like, how's that meant to work? It looks like they're going to steal Mahrez off Man City. Man City don't lose players that they don't want to lose ever. Kante, there's all these players who are wanted by Premier League clubs still, albeit they're on the tail end of going. Fabinho, I think, represents a sea change. There's a 29-year-old lad in the prime of his career going, I think, well, I'm being faded out at Liverpool. I can't even get in the Brazil team regularly at Liverpool when I'm winning every major honour there is to win. So my international career is going to be what it'll be. I may as well go and earn a shit ton of money and live in a better climate. So that's turning. I think the Diaz, I don't think Liverpool, I think the only way Liverpool would sell Diaz is if they had someone, a better plan or a better idea with what to do with that money. I mean, yeah, that's a possibility. I said this before on another stream, but I think, yeah, I wonder whether having had success in that so far, the people in charge here are going, well, fuck me, that was easy. Who else can we get? Can we go and get another, like a younger tier? Can we go and actually get players who are on the fringes, who are close to first team, but maybe you've got a couple of little doubts, who are senior footballers? Because now the groundwork's done. We're all thinking you're looking at 2, 3, 4 years before you're starting to get the real prime age stars at Saudi. But now every club, every one of those PIF clubs has pretty much got 4 established stars or not far off it. And now you can see it. Now it's an easier sell. You're telling Luis Diaz that he's going to come and play with a bunch of guys who, let's be honest, on the best day would not be fit to lace his boots. It's all well and good, Ronaldo. It's a bit of a PR stunt when it's just Ronaldo, isn't it? We've seen, Xavi, Guardiola, maybe even do a little spell over in Far East leagues. I mean, Iniesta's done it. We've seen stars in isolation go to leagues that raised eyebrows and for money. But this looks like a legitimate project all of a sudden. And so maybe that's who they're pushing the button on stage 2 now, because they've got the base players in. Maybe. I'm not sure that was the question, but I certainly enjoyed answering it. I don't think, I like the conspiracy theory. Let's just say Chelsea are trying to do it. I think Chelsea are in a fucking shambles, by the way. I'd be astonished if Pochettino's still their manager by the end of the season. Chris Vinton, thank you so much. Matty Gorman. For me, £200 million was the minimum requirement for this rebuild before these two decided to leave. Now, how much? I mean, look, we put pound figures to things. I'll pose you a counter question, because I don't disagree, by the way. I think, if we were looking at 100 million for Szoboszlai and McAllister, then you're looking to pay about 40 for Lavia, and let's say they were looking at Levi Colwill for about 60. There's 200 million, and I think if you've kept Fabinho and Henderson, I think that's 200 million brilliantly spent. If you lose those two, maybe you'd have to jiggle the fees around. And so, yeah, I think 200 million is about right. Not net, but gross is probably about right for the spend to do the rebuild. This changes the landscape. I think it really does. But I think what I would suggest is, or what I would recommend, take it or leave it, mate, because I don't like taking advice, off nothing from no one I haven't asked for, unsolicited advice. It's not about the fee; it's about the players. If they find another bargain, if they find two 35 million release clauses for 2 players who come in and are perfect fits, and Liverpool ultimately only spend 170 million, that's just good business. That's not inadequate spending. That's just Liverpool being really good at what they do. But I know that's not the point you're making, but I think it's a point worth making sometimes. Big John is back. Let me see what you got to say here, John. Oh, shite, I'm so bad at clicking these things. You think they're going to come up and then they're not going to come up, and you click them again and they go off. Regardless of how they are leaving Saudi's form, whatever, we were always going to have to start replacing them. It needed to start soon. Agreed. Again, look, and again, I know people go back to this. This should have been done years and years before. It wasn't. It just wasn't done, was it? And that's, shit happens. It's like, yeah, you can put if you put your glass of water on the floor, and it's more likely to get kicked over on the floor, but ultimately you put it on the floor because there's no table to put it on. So you can either sit and hold it, or you can put it on the floor, and you put it on the floor and it gets kicked over and you go, shit, I knew that was going to happen. But you made the decision. You just got to live in it now. And that's the point. You're right. Last summer, and I can't do this. We've just done a year of this, but Liverpool, I don't know how many people know this, but Oxlade-Chamberlain turned down a move to Newcastle the January before last. So in the quadruple challenging season, he turned down that move, and then he barely kicks a ball for us for the rest of the season, and then gets injured in pre-season. So we then can't. So we've tried to sell him. He's turned it down, and then we can't sell him because he's injured. Naby Keita has a really good season. There's hope that I think they'll sign a contract extension, because he looks like he's going to be a good squad player for us. And then he gets injured, and then all kinds of shit happens to him, and then he's not available, and no one wants to buy him, and then all of a sudden he's not going to sign a new contract, and then you've got no choice but to leave him on a free, and that's your last chance to turn the plane before it hits the floor has kind of gone. And I would contend on this, by the way, that you see this happen all the time. You don't need to be selling players with 2 years left on the contract. If you're selling them with 2 years left on the contract, you've probably bought the wrong player, or you've had an offer that you can't refuse. And this is where the Fabinho thing kind of comes in about he's got 3. You selling a player with a year left on the contract when you've gotten the use you want to get out of them is about right. But again, if you then can't sell them players for whatever reason, you're playing the game, but it's gone wrong for you. But I agree. We did need to replace them. I would have been more comfortable if we were replacing them with them in the building still. It's an old BBC trick of you hire the replacement for the person you're about to boot out. You get them to train them up, and then you move them on when their contract ends. Robin Hood is a fiver to keep your kecks on. It might not be enough. We'll see. It's a big decision. If I'm going to make that decision, it's because I've decided it's a big decision to be made. Launching my OnlyFans. Right. Next is, come on, show me. Oh, there we go. Musa. In my opinion, Stevie G done us a favour. Hendwoods was a sideways and backwards merchant. Buzzing, he's gone. Plenty better midfielders out there than him. Fucking, I mean, total horseshit, by the way. But I get it. People have had these, like, this has just been like this Jordan Henderson, the crab thing's been it's a load of bollocks. It's a load of bollocks. But fine, whatever. What I would point out, here we go. Do you want to know how much a horseshit that is? And I get it. He didn't play loads in the six last season. Here's Jordan Henderson's scouting report for last season. This stat here is passes attempted, which is fine. 91 percentile for that. Pass completion was a bit crap. Progressive passes, it was in the 94th percentile. That's across positional peers. So, for the sake of it, similar players to Jordan Henderson in there. You've got the likes of Kovacic and Rakitic and Thomas Lemar and Frankie de Jong and all that kind of stuff. The point is that Jordan Henderson played lots and lots of line-breaking passes, was a forward passer. Jordan Henderson just did what he was told to do in the role, and that's what made him a very, very good squad player for Liverpool. He took what Jurgen Klopp wanted to do and took it onto the pitch and did it without question, without demands, did what was required of the team, and often sacrificed himself and his own reputation for doing it. If you look at the best of Liverpool from 2013 to 2021, the best Liverpool performances, go back and watch any of them 10-minute highlight packages on LFC TV, on YouTube, or on LFC TV. Jordan Henderson's all over them. And it's a sad thing. He is a waning power, and sunrise, sunset, things end, things move on. But the revisionism on how good a footballer he was is absolutely fucking horseshit. I've spoken to Jurgen Klopp about it himself, and he paired over how good a footballer Jordan Henderson was. He used to say, great in small spaces, great engine, great athleticism, great range of passing, good job. Jordan Henderson was a perfect Jurgen Klopp player. Jurgen loved him, and he was a great servant to the football club. So we can have opinions on how he's left and how he chooses to leave, but we need to knock this like he wasn't very good on the head, because it's total bollocks. Neve 52 with their 5 months of first teamers just says, just hope the rebuild is worth him going. Exactly that. And look, again, shit happens. Jurgen Klopp is not the kind of guy who sits in his room and cries over things that haven't happened. And we all do that. We all feel sorry for ourselves. Maybe the path not taken. But there does come a point in life where you go, okay, well, this is the reality of what I've got. This is my situation. When the A-team, when the shit hit the fan for the A-team, and they were trying to rescue a kid from a town being overrun by like a bad biker gang or whatever, and they end up trapped in a shed somewhere, right? A shed. And there's basically an army outside who want to kill them, albeit not by shooting them directly, because that's just the A-team. You couldn't have bloodshed in the A-team, not in the 80s. What did they do? Did they just give up? Did the A-team give up? Or did the A-team fashion some form of tank out of odds and sods that they found in that shed, and did they win the day? Yeah, have a little think about that. Jurgen Klopp is basically the A-team. He's going to take whatever he's got and he's going to spin it and he's going to make it into a brilliant Liverpool side again, because we've got the best manager on the planet and he's got the ability to do that. Phil by the Lake sends in a super chat. Thank you so much, Phil. Says, mad how Fab was the best DM on earth 2 years ago. Yeah. But again, it happens, and it's annoying because, again, you want it when you've got the best in the position. You want to be able to continue to have that because you've gotten used to it. You know, if you're used to luxury dining, fine dining, everything's going great for you. You know, you get to eat out every day. You know, and get to be pampered. Then when you think the times get a bit hard and you've got to start cooking for yourself, it's a bit shit, isn't it? You want that lifestyle to continue forever. And unfortunately, you know, I think we were planning for that. But that, again, it's kind of, we've had the rug pulled under us on this one. But ultimately, Liverpool have accepted a bid. They've accepted bids, both of these players. And that says that they've made the peace, because they could have dug in. They could have said, fuck you, Fab. Fuck you, Hendo. You've got 3 years and 2 years on your contracts, respectively. You're Liverpool players. Shut up and get on with it. They could have done that, and they're both professionals, and they might have done that. But yeah, it's mad. It happens. You know, it does. It happens to all players. Hopefully, what we've done with Fabinho is this is our Fernando Torres to Chelsea moment, where the iceberg was coming, and last season was the big warning. Last season was like getting on the Titanic, but having seen the film. And you go, all right, there's this big thing coming on the horizon. Maybe, hopefully, that was this. And you know, and look, if he's playing, if at 29 years old, when he could conceivably have, as you know, he could have 5 years at the top still. Could, if Fabinho's choosing to go and play in the Saudi league, albeit for probably what will be a great salary, we probably are avoiding the iceberg by letting him go. Daz, I think he does. If Pajak Baird asked, we'd ask for more. Well, there's more of his ass, to be honest. So it would be worth more if you pay him per square inch. Then it would make perfect sense. Darren, Mindbender. 52 million plus Lavia money must at least equal Fabinho 2021. Midfield rebuild should have started last summer. CBA with another season like last season. Yeah, and look, it'll be worse because we haven't got Champions League football, so it won't be like last season. Yeah, I agree. That for me, if you're just looking at the baseline, I don't think mate, 18, 19 Fabinho is what we should be really having. You know, we should be having a guy who is at least on that path to becoming that good. I agree. I think what you're talking about is a guy who can plug and play straight in, exactly as good as Fabinho at his best was. The problem we've got is that player might not exist this season. And I know, because I think when you do a generalised rebuild, which is what the plan was this summer, the margin for error is much bigger, because you just need better than Oxlade-Chamberlain and Naby Keita. And being better than them just means fit. You know, playing a Champions League, international caliber level, but 23, 22, 23, 24 years old and more readily available on the pitch. And you've improved upon that. And similarly, James Milner kind of falls into that for different reasons. When you're replacing a nailed-on first-team footballer, that window shrinks down noticeably because of all the things that we said. You're looking at over 6 foot, mobile, ability to intercept passes, reading the game, tactical understanding, great short passer, decent mid-range passer, has the ability to add 3 to 5 goals a season in there as well. That's unicorn territory for footballers. It's unicorn territory. It genuinely is. And there's a reason Declan Rice just moved for £100 million. 2 reasons. Arsenal are fucking stupid. But also because obviously there's an English tax on him as well. But like, it's a big ask to get someone to fill that role. It really is. But yeah, I CBA with another season like last season. Yeah, I think we can all get behind that notion, mate. It's Crossbow, says I'll buy Kimmich. Adds experience and he's a good captain and player for Bayern and would give us another leader in the dressing room with Hendo. Trust me. On the eyes. I don't not trust you. But I mean, I'll tell you what, let me just get Josh Kimmich up. And just have a quick look. Josh Kimmich, FB ref. Again, these scouting charts are they're good. They're a decent barometer. I mean, you're right. I think everything you said there. In fact, that he adds assists, he does attacking stuff that our currents don't do. Pass attempted 99th percentile. Pass completion's a bit low, but that's what you find is pass completion is based upon how the types of passes the footballers play. Players with loads of passes attempted and really high pass completion tend to play really simple passes. Progressive passes in the 99th percentile, so he's even better than he's fractionally better than Jordan Henderson. He's not as good with the progressive carries, but yeah, you're right. Look, I'm talking about Josh Kimmich. Everyone knows that he's a phenomenal footballer. However, my question would be, what, 20, 28? Okay. Yeah, but again, it comes back to it. Does Josh Kimmich want to leave Bayern Munich to come play for Liverpool? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that, to be honest. Right, let's go back to the comments when I find my cursor. But I'd love, fine. Just for the name of it, I'd love it. But I would be wary of Bayern lads who are 28 and over, who've played at the top level for a very, very long time. In fact, that's what I just want to confirm, actually, because I've not really paid attention. I must admit, I used to play Bayern on PES years ago. I've not really followed Josh Kimmich too much in recent years. I want his wiki page for this. Bear with me a moment, everyone. Let me see. I just want to confirm what I think I already know about him. Right. Okay. Sounds. Yeah. Okay. Sounds. So he is 28, right? And he's been at Bayern since 2015-16. And since then, he's played between 36 and 51 games a season since then. So over the last 8. So over the last 8 years, so since he was 20 years old, he's been playing that, and he's done 2 seasons for RB Leipzig prior to that, a base in Bundesliga 2 and the 3rd division. So he came up with RB Leipzig on the way up. So that's 10 years as a professional footballer. That there's a big warning, a big warning klaxon that goes off when I hear that about certain footballers, to be honest. Right, sound. Let me see what else we got. Boo. Doak, Jota, Sobo, Macher, brilliant today. I thought Doak was really exciting. I thought Szoboszlai was all right. I thought McAllister looked really. I thought he was better of the 2 new boys. I agree with that. I thought there's some really, really positive things to talk about. Right, and let's see. Final one from AJ. If anyone's got any more chats to get them in now. I'll be wrapping the stream up in a minute. Thank you so much for huge super chat as well. Thank you. Saw reports that Klopp tried to convince Hendo again. Shows how much he wants him to stay. I won't miss the aimless back post crosses. Jokes aside, at his peak, he was fantastic. Sad. Yeah, those whip crosses. Look, when they were. What I won't miss is Jordan Henderson either not shooting or shooting at the wrong time and getting it wrong. I will always remember the Chelsea goal. I will remember the great days. I will great moments. And I have to say, Jordan Henderson, by the way, I have the best relationship with Jordan Henderson that I've ever had of the current Liverpool player. You know what I mean? He's been brilliant with us. We did the mural. We did that because we just loved Jordan Henderson at the time, and he obviously lifted the title. It's going to be weird to have that mural still be there with him not at the club anymore. That will be weird, but obviously it's such a written in Liverpool folklore. The guy who ended the 30-year wait, the guy who lifted the title afterwards, Jordan Henderson. I really like Jordan Henderson as a person, and that's sometimes the problem is when you get to know footballers. And look, I'm not his mate. I've had a handful of conversations with him at best over the last 12 years of him being at the football club. But it is sad. I think he was great. I remember one pre-season challenging him to score 10 goals, and that was the season where Jürgen moved him to DM. He got nowhere near it. Little did I know. But yeah, look, I think it's worth pointing out, his tirelessness, the way he's served the football club, the way he's represented the football club off the football pitch as well. When you think about lockdowns, leading the Premier League. He was, he led the Premier League captains. He was the captain of captains in the Premier League. And there's some sensational footballers who were in that list at the time, by the way. The work he's done for the NHS, the work he's done for Alder Hey, the work he's done, again, in representation for the LGBT community, regardless of what comes next. I think he's been an absolutely brilliant captain for Liverpool. I really do. And was he the level of footballer of Steven Gerrard? No. But I honestly can sit here and say, I've watched in my time, I've seen probably a dozen people captain Liverpool. I've seen some legends of the game. I've seen, Ian Rush and John Barnes captain Liverpool teams. I've seen Sammy Hippier as captain. I watched all of Gerrard's career, and not just as like he was a kid. I was a kid when, Rush and John Barnes were at the peak for Liverpool. I was a grown up, what I mean? When Gerrard was in the peak of his powers when he came through that side. Jordan Henderson's the best captain I've ever seen at Liverpool. And we are losing something for not having him at the team. It is sad, and it is such a shock that, Jurgen wasn't able to convince him to do one more or to see his contract out. The squad is weaker for not having him in there. Squad, maybe not, not first 11. I think that's fair to say anymore. But yeah, Sean says, absolutely love Hendo. Gave us everything. Legend. This is what surgery looks like. We rock on. Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes, you just have to deal with it. You have to roll with the punches. You don't get no plan survives first contact with the enemy, as it were. And it's on Liverpool now to decide what to do next. It's on now. Jordan Henderson is no longer Liverpool captain. It's mad. We still have these moments. We're still going to have, the Hendo shuffle will live forever. It will be immortalised. Hendo shuffled every major trophy. And I'm so privileged to have been there and seen it during that time. If you're a Liverpool fan, you've been a Liverpool fan over the last 5 years, you will never. It will never get better than this. The odds are Liverpool will never be as good again as they have been in that 5-year period, because that 5-year period was up there with any other 5-year of the best 5-year periods that Liverpool have had. And anyone who saw them was mightily privileged and won't ever shut up about having lived through it. So feel blessed that you got to see that and got to see him. He was a big part of that. Rachel Todd said Liverpool will get there in the end. I know it. Yeah, I hope so too, mate. Michael just dropped us £2. Thank you so much, Michael. And AJ, by the way, Paul, reports came out the Palace won 70 to 80 million for Decore. Arsenal have ruined the market. Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why you do, if you've got a bit of dough, having a strong hand, when you've got the biggest pot of dough at the poker table, it's easier to bully people with smaller amounts around you. That's how it works. But you can be canny and you can be smart and you can play the game and you can work out around it. Liverpool are a draw. Liverpool have got pulling power. We need to go and exercise that. There is a bit more money in the kitty. It means we might have to pay a little bit over the odds for a footballer. But the draw of playing for Liverpool, the lure of playing for Jurgen Klopp is there. It is. And we've now got to do to these next footballers that come in what has just been done to our players. We need to go and turn their heads and get them to go and dig in and say, nah, I want to play for Liverpool, go and make it happen. Yeah, so that's it. That's it for that. Right. Loads more to come from this. We'll probably do a Redmen Reacts, a sit-down chat with some of the regular Redmen people tomorrow when this is all the dust is settled on it and we can truly talk it through. I just want to draw your attention, by the way, Bobby Firmino, best in the world. There's another guy who's taking the Saudi cash, but commemorates his time at Liverpool Football Club. Our brand new book has just arrived, and I can't stress how absolutely pant-wettingly excited I am to be able to share it with the world. It's been a huge labour of love. I have pulled this together. I've done the graphical, layouts and all that kind of stuff for it. I was panicking that it would have a misprint because that's the stress of making stuff off your own back. We didn't go through a publisher's. It's totally self-published. So yeah, every penny that makes off this does go back into helping support Redmen and making us bigger and better for the season forward. But go and look at it. It's A4 inside. It's got a lovely matte finish, so it's really cool. The artwork is just phenomenal on it. It's got little passport stamps for all the stuff that Bobby's won. And then what I've done inside, it follows the story of his career. So go back to his time in Macau in Brazil. We've got some cool little photos of him as a kid in there, which were sent to us. That tells the tale of his early days. You can't really see because it's super bright. But then it's got great photos in there telling the story. We've got stats. We've got like amazing posters as well, A4 pictures, unique photos that you may recognize, but a lot of them you won't have ever seen before in there. So if you want to cut them out and stick them on your walls, you can do. I just thought that was a cool little feature to add. There's a bit of Bobby with his top off. You're into all that. Yeah, and again, it's just boss. I'm immensely proud of what we've done. So if you are a Bobby super fan, or you know someone in your life who's a Bobby super fan, then relive the life and times of 8 magical years of a cop hero. The boy from Macau came, won all of our hearts and thrilled us with his magic. And this basically looks back on all of it. We've got great artwork, some fabulous artists. So there's a piece done by Callie as well, which is absolutely amazing. We got a great story in here as well. It's actually right near the end, from Dave Jaggs of the Ragamuffins. So they were the guys who did the Bobby Firmino, the pop version of Bobby Firmino's Song of Si Senor. And I asked him for a paragraph, and instead he wrote a 3-page piece on the story of how it all came about and what it meant and all that kind of stuff. Just boss. And it's got all his foot ratings and everything. It's just, honestly, Bobby Firmino fans of all ages should absolutely adore that. It's available now. Click the QR code or go to redmenmerch.com and check it out. There is an author-signed edition on there as well, just signed by myself, Dan and Steve. So very limited run. I'm very proud of it. I think you'll love it. If you want a box of Prezi for someone, get it boxed while you can, because they will sell out. I'm pretty certain of that. And yeah, cheer yourself up, get yourself some summer reading in the mix, get a collector's edition, put it on your shelf. That's going on in pride of place in my living room alongside the other ones I've done. It might replace the Hendo one. But yeah, grab one while you can. I'm really pleased. They'll be getting sent to the delivery company early next week after we've signed all the signed ones, and then they'll be getting posted shortly afterwards. So yeah, thank you for that. Just lastly, one little question from a normal chat we got in from Joseph Allen. Can we talk replacement sport? Considering Thiago and Fabinho leave, we've got 120 million to splash with wages. Who do we want to replace, lads? I'll let people talk that one out in the comments. I've done a lot of video over on Mates TV, which is my channel. It's a good follow on here. If you like me looking at those stats and the scouting reports, I've done that for some of the key players that Liverpool have been linked with. I've done some benchmarking as well, so you can see where like players like Declan Rice and Partey and Rodri and Fabinho last season, how do they all compare? And then how do the targets that we're being linked with compare? So to give you a clear idea of maybe what Liverpool should be looking for in the transfer window. But other than that, that is it from me. Wow, an hour. My word. You guys are all amazing. I can't thank you all enough for joining me on this mad day. We've just watched the Liverpool win their first pre-season game. That was good fun. Everyone enjoyed us for that. I'll be back at 12 o'clock, just before 12 o'clock on Monday for the next watch along. And yeah, there'll be plenty more from us in between. So yeah, make sure you keep chatting to us. Use the comments. If you're struggling with it, do reach out by all means. But I want honest opinions on everything we've discussed. I want no hate in the comments. There's no time, no place for hate. Let's all be Liverpool fans and let's all enjoy what has been a fascinating pre-season so far. It's certainly, this is my 14th year on YouTube covering Liverpool almost as a professional career. I've never seen a more fascinating, interesting Liverpool season ever. So wild. Love you guys. I chose not to bear my arse on this stream. I'm sorry for anyone who was let down by that. And have a wonderful rest of your Wednesday. Join us tomorrow. Ta-ra. Much for checking out the show today. If you need more Liverpool content in your life, whether it's podcasts, videos, interviews, or great Liverpool documentaries, head over and subscribe to redmenplus.com today. It funds everything we do across all the free platforms, and we give you amazing content each and every week.